I just don't feel like myself. Are you finding yourself saying this more and more? Are you having trouble staying focused? Are you moody, feeling tired? Do you feel sad and you don't know why? Do you feel like you're losing your mind? Guess what? You're not. Your hormones are probably out of whack. More precisely, you are experiencing hormonal imbalance. Hormone imbalance is the number one cause of physical, mental, and emotional changes. Unfortunately, it is often overlooked or dismissed. However, if you address the imbalance, you will start to feel like you again. That is what we are going to talk about today. Welcome to the Happy Hormone Cottage podcast. My name is Pam Gross, and we are going to discuss the importance of hormone therapy with the founder and executive director of Happy Hormone Cottage, Lynn Hography. Lynn is an expert on hormone imbalance. She is the author of 2 books, Own Your Journey and Lifting Up, Stories to Inspire Women. She is referred to as a warrior for women's wellness. Welcome, Lynn.
Thank you so much. It's so happy to be here. Yeah, and I'm not a doctor or a nurse practitioner or even medically trained. I just know a lot about this subject from my own journey. 17 years ago with the whole hormone issue. And back when I began my own journey, my husband, I think I mentioned in my earlier podcast, he saved my life, actually. He was a pharmacist and he knew what would happen if I went the regular route, standard of care. And so he got me on this whole path of bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. And he literally saved me. And when I went back to teaching the following year, I ran circles around women who were decades younger than me. And I was 49 and they were in their mid 30s or early 30s. And I had energy, vitality, libido, didn't gain weight, had clear memory, no hot flashes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm onto something. It's progesterone and no one knows about it. And so when I finished teaching inner city 6th grade a couple of years later, I just recognized a need for women to understand their bodies because this is a key point. Hormone health is not taught in medical school. And so our doctors are amazing people. They know what they know. They don't know what they don't know. That's key. And there also isn't much education on nutrition or supplements. So I've always said we're a country of dis-ease in women because our doctors, who are amazing people, can't guide us in the number one issue of aging women, and that is hormone imbalance, which I will say is an aging issue. At what age, you ask? Age 35 and beyond. So that's not real old. 35 is a pretty great age. You're still in your prime and having children and you're young and should be feeling great. But at the age of 35, hormone receptors begin to deplete. Again, it's aging. And you just begin to not feel your best, or as you said, lose yourself again. So that's where we start.
Yeah. In the opening, I talked about what happens when hormones are out of balance. Mm-hmm. And then you start saying things like, I don't feel like me. And it sounds to me like that's exactly what happened with you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember I once read something about hormones, and it said that hormones are like a symphony, that it's important that all the instruments be in tune. And that if one is missing or, quote, out of tune, right, that it affects the others. And I thought that was actually a pretty good analogy.
I love that.
And so I'm very excited because you are going to share with us stories about people whose lives have been impacted by your work. And you and your company, Happy Hormone Cottage, have helped so many women and men.
Yes.
Because this doesn't just affect women. Obviously, men are probably, it's like trying to get them to go to the doctor sometimes.
Yeah.
But we want to get back to we want to get our lives back, and we want to feel like ourselves again. We did this in the last podcast, but let's give a quick kind of overview of the Happy Hormone Cottage, and then we'll dive into the stories themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I really want to start with is the fact that my favorite demographic I've noticed after 13 years is the decade of in your 40s. And by the time you're 42, my favorite age, and then 48, my next favorite age, you're right in that perimenopause realm of life. And perimenopause is when your hormones begin to change and you begin to be aware of them. Oh my God, I actually have hormones. Up until about 40 or 42, you don't really recognize anything different. You know what I mean? And so right about the age of 42, you begin to say, what's wrong with me? I'm not sleeping. I'm so tired. I'm gaining weight and I'm changing nothing. I'm still eating the same. I'm working out the same. I'm gaining weight mainly around the belly. What are these god awful love handles doing on my body now? Sex is pretty much non-existent. And these are, 42-year-olds. Life isn't over yet. We're not dead yet, right? We feel dead, but we're not dead yet. And they keep thinking that they're going to wake up the next day and it's going to be better. It's going to all have passed like COVID or a cold. Not true. If you do nothing today, it's the best day you're ever going to have. And I love that quote. Today is it. If you do nothing to feel better, it's the best day you're ever going to have. You're not going to feel better tomorrow or the next day or the next day. And that really brings tears to my eyes because I have such compassion and empathy for women who are suffering and go to their doctor. The doctor wants to prescribe Prozac or birth control or Ambien or say, go home, walk your dog. You'll be dead soon. It's okay. I've heard it all. And it's just, you either have to laugh or scream because it's just so frustrating, right? And so I opened my cottage as a place to educate women and empower them, get them excited and just excited about their bodies and that there is help and hope for them, right? And we do a great testing, and then they come back in for a nurse practitioner. We now have 5 of them, and they go over their big 15-page report about their hormone issues, including cortisol. And then we customize the therapy for each woman. It's one size fits you and one size fits the next person and one size fits her. It's not drugs for the masses. And we compound them in our own on-site compounding lab in Ohio, in Centerville, Ohio. And by definition, compounding means therapy for the individual. None of us look alike. We're different ages, hair colors, sizes. Why would we all be on the same hormone therapy? The answer is we wouldn't. So customized for each one is key. And then following up, and I think the biggest thing we have to be aware of in this arena is that you have to be patient. The women we're going to talk about and share stories about, they had to be a little bit patient. They didn't get to the point of being miserable overnight. It's not going to be recovering overnight, but within a few weeks to a few months, they're going to begin to feel like they've got their lives back, begin to feel like themselves again, that there is hope and they can regain their health. And I think that is just really critical information.
Yeah. And you touched upon something there in terms of, you were talking about how this can affect you as young as 35. It's interesting because I think when we're younger, we think of ourselves as invincible and we don't eat and drink as well as we're supposed to. And obviously we sleep too little and we allow stress into our lives. And we think it doesn't really matter because, gosh, we're young and we're strong and we're vibrant. But the truth is that the choices that we make today, whether they are good or bad, affect our health and they affect our quality of life. Absolutely. One of the things that I love about the Happy Hormone Cottage is the fact that 2 things. One is that, and you mentioned them both, one was the fact that one size doesn't fit all because we are all individuals. We are all different. So to take a one size fits all approach obviously is not going to work. But the other thing that I really appreciate too is this is about improving the quality of one's life and to do it naturally. And I think that's super important. And unfortunately, I think sometimes is that everything has to have a drug attached to it and you don't really need the drug attached to it. Supplements are great. And we just have to find the right balance of those supplements. And that's a natural product.
Absolutely. Yeah. And alternative care is where the rubber meets the road in the terms of just band-aiding symptoms. And there's a need for standard of care. Appendicitis, tonsillitis, strep throat. I'm not naysaying any of that's important, but what makes us different is we want to find and fix the root cause of the hormone issue, the root cause. And when we can actually do great testing that involves dried urine strip testing and the Dutch test that we are really big advocates of, and then we get a 15-page report back on things like methylation pathways and metabolites and all of that with the people that are in the know in this arena of women's health that can then direct and guide individual therapy. That's where it really is important to find and fix the root cause. And then we can begin to feel better. And it is all we make bioidentical therapy with plant-based powders. Mixed with a really great base to make it a lotiony, creamy texture. And then we use those creams. We don't take therapy. We use the creams to refill receptors over time, a few weeks to a few months to begin to feel better and reclaim our life again.
At the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. And it doesn't break the bank. We're really proud of the fact that we are not all that expensive. We have lots of other hormone facilities in the area, and we call all of them every 12 to 18 months. And we are less than half as expensive as anybody else. And I think that says something. And here's the reason. Everything we do is on site. We control everything from beginning to end, and we can keep our prices down. So if you use progesterone cream, one little HR ticker could last you as long as 6 months. It's $90. That's not going to break the bank for most people, I don't believe. Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's reasonable.
Yeah. You're cutting out the middleman.
Yeah. That's a good way to think. I never thought you must be an accountant. There you are.
So, Lynn, let's dive into some of the stories of lives that have been impacted.
Sure.
One of the things that I noticed on your website was that there was a person who wrote about their struggles, and they asked you, quote, "Can you fix me?" I'm just curious, how do you respond to that?
I often will chuckle just like that, and I'll say, absolutely, we can fix you. You're not complicated. You're
That's the way you feel. Valid question.
Yeah,
I mean, the person is right. Yeah, I just need to be fixed.
I know. Can you, please help me. And then they grab me on the leg. Please.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the answer is yes, we can help you. We can help identify why you're struggling with this great testing, and then we can customize therapy for you, just you. So it's not going to be a birth control pill or an antidepressant. There's nothing wrong with those if you need those, but that's not what people that are coming to me need. Typically, they want to be fixed. And so we begin with having a conversation. And here's where I think what I do, and I invented these 13 years ago, so I'm a little bit proud of that, is that I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and open up a facility, make it a strange name you're not going to forget, love or hate it, you're not going to forget, a Happy Hormone Cottage. And women will show up. I'm not going to charge them a flipping dime. I poured tea, I'm not a cook, but I made little tea. We had little tea, a box of tissue because there was going to be tears. I knew it. And we would just talk and have a conversation. And I would spend as much time as each woman needed in this little it was a cottage with tea and tissue. And I listened. They just wanted to be heard. This was 13 years ago. They just wanted to be heard. They'd been told by their doctor and OBGYN that there's nothing they could do. It was just, they was just part of life, and there was nothing they could do for them. And that's nothing is more disheartening than being told there's nothing we can do for you, which, by the way, is not the truth. So they could just talk and unload and feel like they were in a safe space. And I just listened. I would sometimes hold their hand. Sometimes we would hug. I'd probably cry with them because I have a lot of empathy. At the end of the day, though, we had a strategy for getting them tested, getting treated, and getting better. And that just took off, and women told other women, and we've just snowballed into this huge medical facility now with Hormones 101 with Lynn, free small group Zoom sessions. We have 6 women coming in together. And we talk about what the issues are and how we're going to fix them and what it's going to cost and the time frame with which it will take. When you get women together with the same kind of issues, there is a lot of hope and empathy and validation that they're not crazy. There is hope for me. You mean I'm not crazy and you can fix me? You can just see them begin to breathe, like their shoulders begin to drop. They begin to have more peaceful countenance on their faces. They just feel relieved that they're not crazy. They're not dead yet. They're going to be happier at some point. It's not going to take a lifetime to get back to where they need to be.
Yeah. And one of the things that I really appreciate that you said is that when you were conveying about sometimes it's just sitting with people, just letting them be heard. Yeah. And I think one of the things that I really appreciate is that you also understand too that knowledge, and you have a lot of it, that knowledge needs to be shared.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes we don't feel that way when we go to our practitioner or to our doctor or something. And kind of like in the beginning when I said that things that we're feeling about just ordinary, you wake up and you're like, gosh, I'm in a funky mood, or certainly tired, yet I went to bed and it's 7 hours later or whatever. And you talk with your doctor about these kinds of things. And unfortunately, as you stated in the very beginning, is that these aren't things that necessarily are addressed in medical school. So it's not your doctor's fault, but they're overlooked. And again, sometimes they're even dismissed. And I think that's where people are going to find kind of the answers and the home to find the knowledge and to tell me that I'm not broken. And if I am, we're back to how do you fix me? And that the Happy Hormone Cottage can fix you. And I think that's really, really important.
And to doctor's point, 15-minute appointment with copay, there's no time to hear stories and family histories and talk. There just isn't time. Even if they did know, 15 minutes isn't a lot of time for an appointment to be heard and validated and educated. So my step 1 consultations aren't a moneymaker. They're for me to get women on board to understand their bodies and have a plan of action. And then once they take that plan of action, then they enter our medical facility if they choose to. That's where then they get the help. But a doctor doesn't have time or staffing, or there's no money in his pocket to keep going by just listening to women, right? So I love my Zoom sessions 101 with Lynn because it actually gives information and education and empowerment to understand and be educated. And I don't know everything. So I always begin my sessions on Zoom with my women with my website and my resources and readings page with tons of studies and books and articles, because if you Google BHRT, you're going to get standard of care rhetoric, which is not the truth. You need to know where to look for the right information, which is our truth. I always give them, and I say, look, I'm not that smart. I can't make this up. You're going to have to go to these books and read more if you choose to. And here are the resources I recommend to you. I vetted them for the women.
Okay.
Which I think is really important.
And that was one of the questions that I was going to ask you was, I know that you do a Zoom session.
Yeah.
And it's titled Hormones 101 with Lynn. Yeah. Walk us through how that works.
Yeah. So women call our number, which I will talk about later here in the podcast. And they go on my website and they see my beautiful picture above the top. And they can, a little banner that it says sign up here. They can click the button and sign up online as well. But they come into this Zoom session. It's an hour. I do them on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock for an hour, and Thursdays at 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock. There are typically 6 women, because 6 women I found is a really great grouping. Just enough time to share each other's story. And with being a 6th grade teacher of inner city, I can handle 6 at once and not get overwhelmed. And it's just a really great way for them to come in. I begin with my resources and readings webpage. I talk about the tasks of hormones, so they know why they're struggling, what hormones are being depleted, which hormones do which thing, which one causes hot flashes, brain fog, depression, anxiety, low libido, sleep issues. I go over all of those. They know it's not in my head. It's actually in my body, and here's why. What stresses can do, what stress can do, what thyroid issues look like, how we attack those as well. So I educate them. I answer questions throughout the whole session. They can raise their hand. They interrupt me. Nothing scares me. It's just a free-for-all. As long as they're happy and they feel like they're heard and I can educate. They take notes. I always said, I'm going to grade these at the end, and they all laugh. I taught 6th grade, so roll your eyes once, get out of your system. When I hold my little 6th grade teacher tools, I'll hold them up on the screen. But at the end of the day, it's to help them be heard, know they're not crazy, offer them hope in our strategy. And then at the end, I'll say, now, if you'd like to move forward, great. If not, that's great as well. Let me know what you'd like to do. There's no pressure. I just don't have that heart for the pressure. I just want them to do what's best for them. If they want to come back for more information, they can. But most women do feel like they want to go ahead and proceed, and I'll send them a Dutch test, or we'll get them a thyroid panel, whatever it is they'd like to. It's a call to action. What do you want to do to get better? And so I think it's a very authentic hour where I just share myself, my story, but I mainly listen and educate and empower the women to take charge of their own journey, often for the first time ever.
Yeah, one of the things, I think your motto at the Happy Hormone Cottage is get tested, get treated, get better.
Absolutely.
And I love that. It's very succinct and it tells you exactly how this is going to work. And it's interesting too, because you talked about the fact that this can we're back to affecting people who are younger as well as you get older, because the truth is we're all aging, whether we like it or not. And some days we don't mind, other days we do. But we're living longer. And because we are living longer, we don't want it just to be a number. We want it to be a quality of life. And I think that's important. And I remember reading a quote from Betty Friedan. I don't know if you know.
I've heard of her, yes.
Yeah, she was an icon of the feminist movement. Yeah. But she once said that aging is not lost youth, but it is a new stage of opportunity and strength. And I thought that was a great quote.
I love that.
And because I think that's exactly what this is. And I think that's how, when you're waking up and you've got the brain fog and you've got all that and you're like, oh my gosh, what is happening to me? Is instead of looking at it as, oh gosh, I'm not young anymore, the lost youth, that you look at it as an opportunity and a strength. And as such, you have to reach out and find people like you who understand what is going on and will help you to understand those kind of challenges, but more importantly, to get better and to restore your health and your quality of life.
And I think also, I don't want 35 to be the only number. We help women who are in their 20s and up down as low as 18 with things like really heavy cycles and heavy bleeding and clotting, infertility issues. And I have a lot of women coming in who are 28, 32, young mothers, overwhelmed, high stress, weight gain, low libido, lack of energy. They're not even anywhere really near 35. And so it happens to all women. It's not just 35 and older, but again, it's an aging issue. And how do you best attack it? And I love this part too, is that millennials today, and is it Gen X's, is what the next generation is, Generation X, I think, they want natural. They want to find the truth. They want authenticity. So we're really popular in that demographic as well. And I also wanted to clear up the misconception that when you're finished with menopause, you're done with hormones. Such a non-truth there, because hormones are everything, and they prevent disease as we age. So once you're through menopause, hormones protect your brain from dementia. They protect your heart from heart disease. They protect your bones from osteoporosis. They can help prevent breast cancer. So why would you be done with hormones? You need them the most at that age because you don't have any left basically, right? You want to replenish all of the receptors. So I just think clearing up the confusion is key because your doctor isn't going to tell you about it typically. And it's where do you get information from other friends, people, or other readings. And so I think it's important to clear up the misinformation and then pay it forward, the women helping women. And that's how we've really done a really great job with growing and getting the word out.
Yeah, and it goes back to what I said about knowledge needs to be shared.
Yes.
And I'm obviously not in my 30s, but it wasn't something that as I was growing up that we learned a lot about nutrition and hormones and all of those kind of things. And I think that's the one thing. I have a niece who's in her 20s. She knows much more about how all of those kind of things work and also about the fact that she wants to use natural products. I understand that because unfortunately, I mean, just sit on your couch on any night and watch the TV commercials and it's pretty much one drug commercial after another. And the truth is we don't need all those drugs. What we need is to understand how our body is working and then also what's not working and reaching out to the experts like yourself and finding that natural balance in the natural products that are needed to basically bring us back into balance.
And then we did promise a story, if I can share a story about Linda.
Absolutely.
One of my first, even before we opened, Linda called and we were open. She called in July. We opened August 19th. And one of our OBGYNs in the area had referred her to us, a really nice guy who knew that we were going to help with hormone issues. She drove up. She made an appointment to come in and see me, my very first client, drove up in an old, noisy gray car. She came in with ripped jeans, a torn sweatshirt. She had unkempt hair. I hate to use the word frumpy, but frumpy. She was about 42, typical age, my favorite age. And she sat down and I gave her a tissue, poured her a tea. She started to cry. She said, I'm crying when I make my kids lunch in the morning for school. I said, what's wrong with me? It's my kids' lunch. I love them. Why am I crying making their lunch? I'm tired. I don't sleep well. I haven't had sex in forever. I have no energy. What is wrong with me? And she began to cry. It was a hormone imbalance.
Yeah.
She didn't have enough progesterone. She was stressed. So we got her tested, treated. We remained friends. Became a friend of mine. She began to feel better within about 3 weeks. At 3 months, she was no longer crying, making her children's bologna sandwiches. She actually went back to work at a part-time job, and we did fix her. And it didn't cost an arm and a leg. It didn't take forever, and we gave her hope. She's having sex again. She's so happy. Her kids are now grown. It was 13 years ago. I felt like we really changed her life for the better. Had she been on that trajectory, who knows what would have happened? She was just really miserable. It was such a simple, easy answer. Progesterone deficiency, you know what I mean? And testing proved that. So I just love helping women, and I just think it's just the best thing I've ever done, even surpassing inner city 6th grade. Just to be able to change lives and help women feel better about themselves is just the most, I'm just so lucky to have this job.
Yeah.
I love it.
I think we know why you're referred to as the warrior for women's wellness. Lynn, I want to thank you again for your work, and I want to thank you for your dedication to improving people's lives. You're showing people that there is hope for them to be, quote, normal, and you're spreading the word about the benefits of hormone therapy. It's important for all of us to seek practitioners who are experts, like Lynn, and the people who work at the Happy Hormone Cottage. More importantly, that they're true partners, that they're partners with us who will provide information and the tools to improve our health. It's important for everyone to know that Lynn and Happy Hormone Cottage, they will help you navigate through the stereotypes, the various attitudes, and the misinformation about hormone therapy. Good health and happiness are within everyone's reach. And the Happy Hormone Cottage is how you start the journey to feeling yourself again. So please contact them at happyhormonecottage.com. Is there another way or some other mechanism?
We have an easy phone number.
Okay.
It's 513-444-6343.
Okay.
Very easy, 513-444-6343. And that number's on the website as well. We have a couple different locations. You can do virtual or in person. It's just, we try to accommodate everyone.
Yeah, and you have a great website.
Thank you.
You really do. It's a great website. I urge everyone to please go and check it out. Read the testimonials. Read all the various. You've got some great information. Great information on there. And again, thank you, Lynn, and everyone. Please go to the Happy Hormone Cottage and start feeling like yourself again.
Thanks so much.